I really want to see you guys master the morning sit, the art of the morning sit. It's really critical. When we're creating new stand locations, we're always looking at like, man, that would be a great morning cruising, because there's so much more cruising opportunity that happens during the rut, during those morning hours. Dylan, I still think about it would be a major overhaul between the Apple plot and Jack's plot. There's a deep ditch. I mean, when you're in that ditch, you're looking down like 15, 18 feet. The deer do not go through it for 150 yards. And I want to watch that crossing, but everything we have is up above 50 feet, meaning like food plot, crossing in between, thick cover. We'd have to go in on that side of the thick cover. We'd have to be behind the line of movement, food. So I look at it like, should we take a chance, have a tunnel into a stand like that, only use it during post daybreak, middle of the day? No, we should have a camera there.
Maybe run a camera there for the rest of the season or something, just to see you. Am I really missing it here? Is it worth the risk? And if so, I could see definitely putting like a tunnel through that thick stuff and then using it with your wind blowing back. But I think that'd be a good, post daybreak to 2 o'clock stand. I think it'd be really tough to hunt that in the evening because those deer are going to start to stage up.
I believe that too. Yeah. And they still cruise through those. We could do that with some cutting, maybe.
Yeah.
Some cutting, some brush down, to funnel them a little bit better.
Yeah.
But regardless, so we're always looking at, dreaming about that next great morning sit, because I say a lot of times that the morning sits account for maybe 15, 20% of my sits at most for a year, but they account for 70% of my bucks. And I want you to take advantage of that. People tell me, well, I shoot my bucks all at night. It's because they haven't mastered these rules of how to create a morning sit opportunity. Food defined. You have to have a major food source, and you have to have a separation of bedding. This works. You have food, 3 different bedding areas a buck can bed in, but then you stick food in the middle of this. You just blew out these bedding areas because they don't have enough depth. So that places these bucks back in this range, which might be on your neighbors. So you have to have good food, bedding, separation. It can't be a confused mess of it all in between. Doesn't matter if you're hunting clear cuts, greenbrier tops, stands of oaks on public land, finding that food source of the movement, or you're actually creating it on private land or hunting at neighbor's food source even. You're finding that morning stand. Surprise. Meaning, this is one of your best stands. When you go in there, like that stand I'm talking about with Dylan, if I go in to hunt that, I'm expecting to shoot a mature buck, probably a certain mature buck. I'm not just going in there on a whim in September when the season opens, in early October, in mid-October. I'm going in there in the middle of the pre-rut, a good cold morning, or during the rut, maybe even during the post-rut, and I'm expecting to shoot a certain buck. And I'm going to sit for 6 hours, and I'm going to get out when the getting's good, and it's going to be a total surprise to that mature buck, because I'm not overhunting that stand, and he has zero clue that I'm there. And it has to be a surprise. It's the edge. What I mean by that is you are hunting the edge of the bedding area, not in the bedding area. You're hunting on the outside edge. I'm blowing my scent just like Dylan and I are talking. I want to blow my scent to a non-deer area. How can we make sure that's a non-deer area? If we have a food source movement behind us with hunting plots and it's thick cover, what can I do to destroy that thick cover? Do I create a tornado area downwind of me where I cut it all down, and have one tunnel going through it that gets to my stand, stops, dead ends? That's probably the case. But I need to make sure that there's nothing downwind of me, because then it ruins the sit opportunity. I don't want to go in there and a buck has a 50-50 chance going in front of me or behind me. That's not good deer habitat management. It's not good hunt management. It's not good building for your property. So you want to be on that outside edge and not destroy the bedding area. We're not taking a all or nothing sit. I want to be able to go and hit that good spot. If it's a good spot with a good buck in that location, I might hit it 5 times during the rut. 5 different mornings, whether I have to get in there early, late, post daybreak like we're talking about, around. This means that this is the food source. You cannot walk through that food source to get to each bedding area. Just destroyed the whole movement. What's the most important part about a buck bedding area? the food source that he relates to in the afternoon when he gets up and cruises towards it. If you're not seeing that buck until midnight, it's because he's gone to his favorite food source in and around daylight on someone else's land. Always remember that. He's not nocturnal. He's just moving somewhere else during daylight. Always have to remember that. There's no such thing as a nocturnal buck. He's always moving somewhere during daylight. That food source is where he's at dawn and darkness. Right when it's turning dark, when it's getting light. So if you walk through that food source, you're just spooking them out. So I want to go around. That means if I'm getting to this bedding area, I'm going around that food source. I'm around the food source here. I'm coming in from this way, if I can, to get to those. Someone asked a very good question online the other day. They said, how far around the food source do I have to go? The answer is far enough not to spook the deer in and around the food source. I can think of the shortest distance, and I've seen this on client properties. We've seen it all. Food source is here. There's literally an earthen berm that's 15 feet high along this stretch. They can walk next to an open field right there on the other side of the berm. And the food source is literally 10 yards away, but you could have 40 deer out there and they have zero clue that you're walking by because there's a 15-foot high earth berm. I've seen people that have created a tunnel with an earth berm on either side to go a quarter mile to get to the woodlot they hunt because they're going through open ag and the deer can't see them. They've left some openings in the dirt so the deer can go back and forth, but they can just skip through there. And the deer, they're not going to use that tunnel of dirt. They're trapped, but the hunter can use it to get to their woods. Bottom line is you have to determine that. How close, the answer is if you're traveling 30 yards away from a 2-acre food source and you expect to get by there without spooking anything and it's just some brush between you and the food source, you're probably going to spook a deer almost every time, even if you don't hear them. How are you accessing? I had a neighbor tell me that he feels he spooks less deer with his side-by-side driving all the way through the land as opposed to walking through, because every time he walks he sees deer. You know why he's seeing deer when he walks through and he spooks them? Because they're there. And I'm not saying he should walk through the middle of that to get to a spot to hunt. I'm saying he should walk to the outside with the right wind, and then your intrusion is very, very light. So yeah, driving through is going to be the worst. Why are you not seeing anyone when you drive? Because you spooked them all a quarter mile before you got there, a gas ATV. In most cases, when we get to low pressure areas, giant properties, it's deceiving because that doesn't apply to the average hunting property. Bottom line is you have to go around the food, you have to go around the deer, and that means you might have 2 access routes. Let's say that you're going way around, you're coming in right here to this bedding area, the food source is right here. Let's say you have an old logging road that goes through that bedding area, gets down into this food right here. You come in this way, hunt the outside of this bedding area, and then you can see there's no deer in here, and that's your clear path to get out during the middle of the day. Maybe the wind was such that you came around here in the morning, you got into a location right here, and you can just say, man, I can see the food 150 yards away. There's nothing there. There's open woods in between myself, and you just go right through the open woods, through the food, and get out of there. So there's a lot of times you have to go in one way, out the other, but you always have to think about where the deer are when you're going in. It doesn't matter if it's timing, like with a post-daybreak stand entrance, or they're around food at daybreak, so you have to go well around it, the distance where you're not spooking them. And then you're in. Once you're in that stand, you're blowing your scent away from that movement, you're on the edge. And if it's a 5-acre bedding area, 10-acre bedding area, and there's a mature buck in there and it's the right time of the year during the rut, you're going to see him. He's going to be moving around in there. Even if it's not full-blown rut, he's exercising a lot of movement. He's not really leaving or traveling too far. Good chance he's going to go by your stand. Good chance that you can call him. So that's a really good opportunity for you. And I find, and there's some good studies that back this up, that mature bucks during daylight move several times more, 3 times more during the morning hours than they do in the afternoon hours. They have to stop. It doesn't matter. They're not rutting 3 weeks straight, 24/7. They're actually rutting, taking a break, rutting, taking a break. So if it's really good morning, temperatures are still, there's a lot of times where it's 26 in the morning, it's going to warm up to 52. It doesn't get out of 30s till afternoon. That means they can run around in that cold temperature, be active and not get too heated up, But then all of a sudden at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 52 degrees. They're laying down, and then they start to move right before dark. And so really a huge opportunity for you. You want it to be a surprise. Get in there, try to develop these rut morning stands. That might mean that you have to move some food sources, change them, get rid of them, but it's worth the effort. And it's worth always thinking about that morning so you can master a morning sit and take advantage of that.
So if I'm gonna hunt a morning sit, this is a question I'm sure you see all the time, and I don't know, we need like a huge definition of this, but how early do you have to get in for your morning sit?
Yeah, I love that question because like we were talking about a post-daybreak stand entrance, it might be that I'm getting in. Last year it was getting light, and this was after the time change, I believe. So I got into my stand at 7:30. It was pretty light. There was no deer in the fields. I was able to go right to a stand location. I would bet it was getting light enough to shoot at 6:45, 6:30, somewhere around there. So I was getting in an hour or 45 minutes after, and I shot my buck at 11:30. That's a post-daybreak. That's when you're going in. Again, you're trying to avoid deer. Now, if I'm going into a spot where I can come in a back door like back here, and I can get into that location without spooking deer, food is way in front of me, 200-300 yards, then I'm thinking like the 67 water hole. I can get into that spot, and then if I can blow my scent down a steep face or a rock pile, and I can have the right wind blowing into that where I don't think there's any deer even before daylight, why not get there an hour early, 45 minutes early, let the woods wake up. It's enjoyable. That's that time where I know my downwind is covered. How many sits are ruined because someone adheres to always got to get in there an hour and a half before daylight? Always got to get in there 45 minutes before daylight. Well, there's 45 minutes or an hour and a half or an hour, whatever your time frame is that you think is a magical time, that a buck or a deer you're after or any deer can get downwind of you before daylight, crossing an area like a horse pasture, a neighbor's yard, an open field, an open hardwoods where they wouldn't be caught dead during the daylight. They'll happily do before daylight. You're sitting there blowing your scent into that area, which is safe after it gets daylight. But before daylight, he's free to go through there and you spook out your hunt before it even begins. So if I get in that early, which there's no magical time, I just like, if I'm in about a half hour, 45 minutes, hour early, depending on the location, I love to watch the woods wake up. I love to close your eyes, hold them for a while, and then you finally give in and you look around, is it getting brighter? I love doing that. I have fond memories. You know, back when we weren't as safe in tree stands, I can remember sitting on the platform of a stand, getting in an hour and a half early, and then I would strap myself like a seat belt to the platform with my back against the trunk. I do not recommend this at home, but the bottom line is I could take a nap before daylight because I was in so early and I was relatively safe. That's one thing. If you're getting in early, make sure downwind is blocked. And then the other, and sorry, this is a long explanation, Dylan, but there's three options. The other is gray light, where I want to use the cover of darkness to get into the stand location, but I'm getting in just in time because I'm worried about deer getting downwind to me. So I want to use the cover of darkness. By the time I'm pulling my bow up, getting ready, it's almost time to shoot. And that's a just in time. And we use that a lot because you want to get into a spot. We're worried about our downwind before daybreak, but then after daybreak, we're safe there. So I want to get in just in time. So those are three general time frames for getting in the morning. Another question people ask is, well, how do you know when to get out if you're in a bedding area? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Dylan. Dylan has a few questions for me.
Yeah, pop quiz you. Yep.
And so when you're going into that stand in the afternoon, you don't know where deer are at, how you can get around them, and if you're going to spook them or not. It's too much of an if. When you're sitting there for 4 hours, you say, I'm going to sit from 7 to 11, or I'm going to sit from 7 to 11 during daylight. You have the luxury of knowing where deer are around you and listening to them and knowing what's going on in the woods for 4 hours. So then you can say, well, a doe and a fawn just fed through over there. When they're gone, I'm going to get out. Nothing's chasing that doe. I'm going to get out. They're bedded right there. I'm going to wait. Well, they just got up. I'm worried about more deer coming in, so I'm going to leave. And so you have the luxury of knowing what's there, listening to what's there. You're a part of the woods at that point. And you have the luxury of going around deer. Well, I can't go the way I was planning on getting out, but I can go this way to get out of my stand. So that's the difference between getting into there in the morning and getting out versus going there in the afternoon. Got another one, Dylan?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, cool. Well, that's, again, it's art of the morning hunt. Take advantage of it. And it's something you have to plan out a little bit. Dylan, post daybreak into that area. If we picked a tree out, I could go in there. Jack's plot would be the preferred one because there's less likely that they're bedding up against that one. They're down in the woods a little bit. I could go into the corner of Jack's plot in front of the Jack's redneck stand. I could go in about 20 to 30 yards, get in a tree and saddle hunt and watch that crossing on a post daybreak stand entrance saddle hunt. What would you think of that?
I like it. My concern is just how nice that cover is above you there. So I actually prefer the idea of like making a tunnel through that, so that way you can almost like make it less attractive, if that makes sense.
You know where the redneck's at?
Yeah.
There's a big wall of brush all the way in that tunnel going into it.
Yeah.
So what you'd have to worry about if I'm going from the corner, I'm going down into the woods, and you'd have to worry about that probably 15, 20 yards of cover between there and the apple plot where something can go through. Be sitting in that, and with it, you remember when we'd sit in the Diego scrape stand?
Yeah.
And we'd blow our scent out into the field on the other property, and we're up at the top. It seemed like deer would be downwind of us, but because it's almost like a ramp, it'd go almost, we never spook deer downwind of us.
Point.
So I'm thinking, could we get away with that 15, 20 yards?
That makes sense.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I think there's a chance. Yeah, I think there's a chance. Yeah, definitely. My first move would be to get a camera in there.
You know what, too? I think we happen to have a set of sticks and a platform I could pre-hang, so I can do it really fast, too.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Man, I'm getting excited.
Now
and it just so happens that Joe shot his buck last night, and we drug a deer out of there. Maybe this is something that I should do really quick before Jen and I go out and sit tonight, because we were just in there spooking a bunch of deer, getting that deer out.
It.
Okay.
Wild
Anyways, take advantage of these morning sets, however you figure them out. And part of figuring it out is we really try to push this time of year is my How to Design Your Parcel web class. Look at whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. You can find the web classes we have, but that's our most popular one. And it talks about how to design your own land at a lot cheaper rate from having us come and give boots on the ground. And that'll help you determine where and why you have these morning stands to sit. Yeah, I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Your followers really appreciate and taking the time. I wanted to mention we have our last minute food plots you can check out at Pure Wildlife Blends. We have a lot of different seed varieties, especially our fall power greens. We have ways to establish clover this time of year, rye, a lot of different goodies. We also have our client visits. We've already started scheduling for this year, December through next August. So there's 5 of us going to client properties. Make sure you check that out. And then finally, our books and web classes. They're great Christmas presents this time of year is when they really start to sell. So really appreciate you watching. Just check out Whitetail Habitat Solutions, or for this food plot seed company, PureWildlifeBlends.com. Thank you.